After we told everyone I was pregnant, my sister-in-law tried to humiliate me at a party we threw for my husband, but her whole plan blew up in her face. She ended up in jail and even got divorced because of it. I'm 28 now and I've been married to Mark for 6 years. I honestly love everything about our marriage, except for one major issue, his sister, Brittany. She's like a dark cloud over our otherwise sunny life. At first, I actually liked Brittany. When we met, I thought she was great. But that didn't last long. Over time, it became clear just how toxic and manipulative she really is. She's got a way of turning every situation negative. Because I knew how she could be, I made a real effort over the years to stay on her good side. Back when Mark was 16, he dated Brittany's best friend, but he broke things off because he felt like he was just doing it to keep Brittany happy. Later, when he was 22 and single again, Brittany tried to play matchmaker with another friend of hers, but Mark wasn't interested. She ran crying to their parents, saying she wanted him to marry someone she approved of. But honestly, their parents never really took her that seriously during those fights. When Mark and I started dating and things got serious, his parents were warm and welcoming. Brittany, though? She gave me the cold shoulder from day one. She kept bringing up Mark's exes anytime I was around, always finding ways to mention how great they were doing now or how Mark could still talk to them if he wanted. It went on for a while. Even Mark noticed how strange it was and told her to cut it out. When he confronted her, she got angry and turned her frustration on me. She called me jealous and said Mark deserved someone better. Whenever his parents invited us to dinner, she'd show up with one of his exes, claiming it was just a coincidence and she happened to run into them that day. Yeah, right. Even though she doesn't follow me on Instagram, she watches my stories like clockwork. Since my profile is public, I could always see she was the first one viewing them. And if any guy left a comment on my photos, she'd run to Mark and complain, accusing me of posting inappropriate pictures. Mark and I couldn't help but laugh at how ridiculous it all was. When Mark and I decided to move in together, Brittany tried to convince him to break up with me. She told him I wasn't good enough and that she could find someone better for him. That one stung, especially because I'd always tried to be kind to her. Things only got worse when we got engaged. The day we announced our engagement, everyone was congratulating us, but Brittany barely said a word. Then out of nowhere, she stood up and stormed out. Later, she called Mark crying and yelling, saying she should have been told about the engagement before everyone else since she was supposedly closest to him. She even sent me a creepy message afterward telling me how I needed to treat her brother right because she'd always been the most important woman in his life. Honestly, it made my skin crawl. I left the message unread and didn't reply, which I'm sure pissed her off even more. From that point on, every time she saw me, she acted like I didn't exist. But she kept involving herself in the wedding plans. She showed up for dress shopping and my bridal shower and kept criticizing everything I picked. My fiancé and his mom both called her out, but she didn't back off. One day she overheard me talking about centerpieces with my future mother-in-law and immediately started mocking me, saying my taste was trash and that this was exactly why she wanted her brother with someone better. That was it for me. I snapped. I told her she was officially uninvited from the wedding and shouted that I couldn't take her constant jabs anymore. She looked shocked, like she never expected me to stand up to her. Even my future mother-in-law backed me. Afterwards, she called Mark, whining that I embarrassed her and told him he needed to control me since I was going to be his wife. Mark stood firm and said he supported my decision. He made it clear that unless she apologized, she wouldn't be welcome at the wedding. Eventually, she sent a half-hearted apology by text. I saw it and ignored it. I was drained from wedding planning and didn't have the energy for her drama. In the end, I let her come just so she wouldn't stir up trouble afterward. Everyone else looked great in the pastel and pink tones we picked for the wedding. But Brittany? She showed up in a long black gown with a veil like she was heading to a funeral. It was shocking. She went around the venue talking to guests about how she was losing her brother to another woman. At the reception, Mark pulled her aside and asked what she was doing. She claimed she could wear whatever she wanted and called me controlling, trying to make herself look like the victim. When she wouldn't stop causing scenes, my in-laws finally stepped in and told her to leave. It was mortifying. From that day on, I kept my distance. When I gave birth to our son Liam, I made it clear she wasn't allowed near him. She tried to fight that, but Mark's parents had my back and understood why I felt that way. A couple of years ago, Brittany had a miscarriage with her then-boyfriend, Derek. It hit her hard. It was a sad time for everyone. Since we already had a child, Mark and I felt for her. We decided to ease up a little. We let her spend time with Liam. And to our surprise, she was really sweet with him. That part caught me off guard. She seemed like she'd changed, at least at first. But soon she went back to her old ways. She'd complain nonstop about how nothing in her life goes right and how people have wronged her, never once thinking she might be the problem. She always plays the victim and acts like she's never at fault. This year, she announced she was getting married and sent out invites to everyone. Except us. Mark was genuinely surprised since it seemed like we were finally on better terms. When we asked her about it, she said I wasn't invited because she thought I'd ruin her big day. I called her confused and asked why she would think that. That's when she admitted she had intentionally worn all black to our wedding, and now she was afraid I might do something similar to hers. So she decided it was safer to leave me off the guest list. When I found out what she said, I told my husband straight up. I was furious. I said, "She's being manipulative and I've had enough." After talking things through with his parents, Mark made a decision. He told Brittany that not only were we not going to her wedding, but his parents wouldn't be paying for it either. That hit her hard. She broke down crying and immediately started blaming me for ruining everything. Her own husband told her she had no business blaming me, especially after admitting she messed up. But Brittany brushed it all off and told me I should just get over it, because our wedding was ages ago. Later, she reached out again, apologized, and asked me to forgive her, mostly because her mom and dad still wouldn't fund the wedding. I hate to admit it, but when Brittany wants something, she can be surprisingly sweet and persuasive. I figured it was time to move on, so I let it go and forgave her. Her wedding to Derek actually turned out beautiful. We all went, had a good time, and everything seemed fine for about 5 months. Then one day, Brittany showed up on our doorstep complaining about how her marriage was falling apart. We let her stay with us for a few days while she vented nonstop about Derek. Apparently, they were having trouble trying for a baby, and she put all the blame on him. When I tried to have a calm chat with her, she insisted everything that was wrong was Derek's fault. If she wasn't ranting about him, she was obsessing over our life, picking apart things that weren't even real. Take mornings, for example. I usually hit the gym before work. If I'm in a rush, I'll just pack my work clothes, finish my workout, shower, and head straight to the office. Brittany started noticing that routine and asking weird questions like why I was showering or why I needed the gym so badly. I didn't think much of it and explained that I like to stay fit and don't want to be all sweaty when I show up at work. She'd nod, then lick her lips in this weird, smug way. Then, over lunch one day, my mother-in-law was talking about a friend who had just divorced her husband after finding out he'd been cheating. She mentioned that the woman ended up with half of everything. Out of nowhere, Brittany cuts in and asks Mark if he and I had signed a prenup before we got married. We all froze. It got awkward real fast. She looked right at Mark like I wasn't even sitting there. Mark told her plain and simple that we both make good money, and we didn't feel like a prenup was necessary. Brittany scoffed and said people get blindsided all the time, and cheating is everywhere nowadays. That ticked me off, so I asked her what exactly she was trying to say. That's when she flat out accused me of cheating, saying I was always carrying spare clothes and disappearing to the gym, and that it was her duty as a sister to warn Mark. I couldn't believe it. I was stunned. My father-in-law and mother-in-law jumped in right away, trying to stop her from running her mouth and reminding her to mind her own business. But Brittany didn't let up. She just kept going, saying she was looking out for her brother, and even joked that maybe our son Liam wasn't really Mark's because, in her words, he doesn't look like him. I saw Mark's face turn bright red with anger. I've never seen him like that before. He looked her straight in the eye and told her she wasn't a mother yet because she didn't deserve to be one, and that maybe her child was better off in heaven than having to grow up with someone like her. She looked stunned, her mouth literally hanging open. My in-laws just sat there, not saying a word as Mark kept going, saying she was bitter, had nothing going on in her life, and was just trying to drag everyone else down because she was miserable. He called her a loser who did nothing all day while her husband busted his back at work. He said if she wanted to criticize someone's marriage, maybe she should take a long look at her own instead of grilling us about prenups. Brittany broke down in tears. She turned to Derek, who was sitting right there, looking for some comfort, but he didn't say a word. Mark isn't the type to lose his temper like that. Eventually, Brittany stormed off to the bathroom, sobbing. He was still boiling, so I took his hand to calm him down. My mother-in-law came over too, trying to help. I just nodded, understanding why he was so upset, especially after what she said about our son. Honestly, it felt good to see him stand up for me like that, out loud and in front of everyone. Once he cooled down, he apologized to Derek but completely ignored Brittany. We didn't say another word to her after that lunch. It wasn't just me she was hurting anymore, Mark was taking the hit too. We ended up cutting her off completely. If she wanted to reach out, she'd have to make the effort. After lunch, my in-laws talked to us and agreed this time Brittany had gone too far. They could tell their normally calm son had snapped because she kept pushing his buttons. That was the last time we spoke to her, and it's been a full year. Things have been peaceful since. Then 1 month ago I found out I was pregnant again. We weren't even trying, so it came as a surprise, but a happy one. We felt lucky to be welcoming another baby. We decided to share the news at Mark's birthday party. Just felt like the right time. His parents threw a big backyard celebration for him and invited all our close family and friends. Of course, Brittany found out and decided to show up. When we saw her, we both did a double take. She walked up to Mark, hugged him, and said how much she missed him and how sorry she was for the last time they spoke. Then she took my hand and apologized to me too. Said she knew she'd crossed a line. She told me she'd been going to therapy the last few months and finally understood how wrong she'd been in the way she treated me. I didn't agree with everything she said, but I nodded anyway, just trying to be polite in front of everyone. Since it was Mark's party, my in-laws checked in with us and said if we were uncomfortable, they'd ask her to leave. They hadn't even known she was coming. But Mark didn't want to cause a scene, so we let it be. Felt strange. Brittany was laughing, chatting, and being social the whole time. She said she was seeing a therapist, so I tried to give her the benefit of the doubt, even though she seemed too cheerful, almost like she was faking it. Just didn't feel like the real her. When it came time to cut the cake, Mark gave a speech that just melted my heart. He said he felt like the luckiest man in the world to spend another year with a woman like me. I couldn't help but blush. It reminded me of when we first started dating, how in love we were then and still are now. That's when we decided to share the big news. Smiling ear to ear, we told everyone we were expecting another baby. For a moment the room went quiet, and then the cheers erupted. My mom rushed over crying and hugging me tight. George clapped Mark on the back and wiped tears from his face. Everyone wanted to know if we picked out names already. They were clearly excited for us. Everyone, that is, except Brittany. She was the one person who didn't seem happy. She looked shocked at first. Then her whole mood shifted. She turned away and looked irritated. I figured maybe she just needed a minute to process the news. I'll admit, I was a little worried she might find a way to ruin another special moment for us. But people kept coming up to chat, so I got distracted. I stood up to help my in-laws bring out lunch, but my parents and Tom waved me off, telling me to sit down and relax, especially in my condition. I stayed seated and waited for Mark to bring me a plate. That's when Brittany walked over, smiling big. She said she was thrilled about the pregnancy and wanted to personally bring me a plate of food. She handed it to me and mentioned how she hoped this would make up for all the times she treated me badly in the past. I smiled politely and thanked her. She turned and walked away. I was just about to dig in when I spotted something on the plate. Shrimp. I'm highly allergic to shrimp. The sight of it stopped me cold. I couldn't believe she'd give that to me, especially knowing my allergy. I shook my head, disappointed, and got up to get something else for myself. Derek walked up just then to congratulate me. We chatted for a bit and he noticed I wasn't eating. I told him Brittany had brought me shrimp, probably by mistake. Derek said not to worry, he loved shrimp and would eat it himself. He took the plate from me and said I could grab a new one. I smiled, nodded, and went on my way. Barely 10 minutes later, Derek started coughing and gagging hard. He looked pale and dizzy, stumbling out of his chair. The whole party went silent. Mark and Brittany rushed over. Derek was pointing at his plate and grabbing his throat. It was clear something he ate had done serious damage. Then right there in front of everyone he passed out. People gasped, frozen in place. Brittany ran to the plate and her eyes widened in shock. She looked at me and asked if I had given that plate to her husband. I nodded because it was true. Someone called 911 and an ambulance arrived fast. Derek was rushed to the hospital. Brittany was crying uncontrollably, but also giving me this look, like she was furious with me. Later, we were told Derek had been poisoned. When I heard that, I nearly collapsed. The plate was originally mine. Whatever poisoned him could have harmed me and our baby. None of this had been shared yet with Mark, my in-laws, or my parents. Since no one knew exactly what had poisoned him, the police came to take evidence from the food. As I write this, Derek's still in the hospital recovering. Brittany stayed overnight with him. My phone's been ringing nonstop. Friends and family are trying to figure out what happened and who poisoned Derek. My mother and father-in-law are so shaken up, they decided to sleep at our house. They said they were too scared to go back to their own. No one can make sense of how such a happy day turned into a nightmare. The fact that the plate was handed to me by Brittany terrifies me. If this turns into a full investigation, and it likely will, I'll have to tell the truth. I didn't want to believe she'd actually try to hurt me, but now I feel like she's capable of anything. I don't feel safe around her. I won't let her near my kids. The idea that she might have tried to poison me makes my stomach turn. And even though I didn't eat that food, I feel awful that Derek did. I keep thinking that if I just tossed the plate, this wouldn't have happened. Update 1. I'm overwhelmed by the thousands of comments I got in just a few hours. I never imagined I'd get so many responses. I wrote the original post with shaking hands. I haven't even slept. Despite what everyone says, I still feel some guilt about what happened. I should have thrown the plate away. I don't know why I let Derek take it. I keep crying, thinking about what could happen to him. My husband knows something's wrong. He's been hovering around, staying close. He doesn't know everything I do, especially not about Brittany, but he knows I'm rattled. A lot of people said I should sit down and talk to everyone about what happened. I agree. And thankfully there are security cameras all over my in-laws' house. Since the party happened in their backyard, there's a good chance the cameras caught Brittany handing me that plate. I'm going to talk to everyone tonight and give another update afterward. Update 2. We had the talk and I swear, I have the best in-laws in the world. My ML and FL were already staying with us, so we all sat down for dinner. I told them I had something really important to share. I took a deep breath, the weight of everything just pressing on me, and started telling them about what happened at the party. I explained how Brittany had handed me the plate with shrimp, how I couldn't eat it, and how Derek ended up with it. I told them how sick he got and that it all started from something meant for me. Their faces said it all: shock, disbelief, worry. Mark's parents looked at each other, clearly upset. Mark, who had been silent, went from confused to furious as he listened. I also told them how worried I was about Brittany's intentions, especially given all the past drama. I was scared to even say it all out loud, but I had to. My ML, being the practical one, said we should check the security footage immediately. FL agreed. This wasn't something we could brush off. Mark was clearly angry, but he stayed quiet, trying to process it all. We pulled up the camera feed from their app, and there it was. You could clearly see Brittany walking up and handing me the plate. Then you could see Derek take it. Everything was there on video, plain as day. No room for doubt. Emotions hit hard. Mark finally saw it with his own eyes. He didn't need words anymore. He knew exactly what kind of person his sister really was. My in-laws were horrified when they realized just how far their daughter had gone. ML and FL couldn't believe what Brittany had done or why she'd go to such extremes to cause chaos in our lives. We all sat there in stunned silence, trying to make sense of it. Given how serious this was, my in-laws decided to turn over the security footage to the police. Since Derek was the one who got hurt, he would have to be the one to file charges. FL and Mark made plans to visit him as soon as he was strong enough. Every time I thought about how I let Derek take that plate from me, I felt like crying. I had no idea how he'd react, or if he'd ever forgive me. I was a mess. I couldn't eat. Couldn't sleep. I was just waiting for something to change. Update 3. Hey everyone, finally back with an update. I know it's been a month, but I've had a lot going on. Pregnancy is no joke. First off, Brittany got arrested. As soon as the police saw the video, they took her in. She didn't even try to lie. She broke down and confessed on the spot. My in-laws gave the recording to the cops, and that was that. Derek was as stunned as the rest of us when Mark told him what had happened. Mark told him that no matter what decision he made, he'd always be family to us. Then he gently encouraged Derek to press charges. What she did wasn't just messed up, it was criminal. Once Derek recovered, he not only decided to press charges, but he also filed for divorce. Brittany started calling her parents, crying and begging for forgiveness. Turns out she was pregnant too. She tried to guilt them into bailing her out, saying they had to do it for their future granddaughter. FIL wasn't having it. He told her it was time she finally took responsibility for her actions and that they were done protecting her. My ML was heartbroken about it all. Of course, it's her daughter. But she agreed that Brittany's actions had gone way beyond what anyone could excuse. The investigation confirmed that she'd tampered with the food, intending to hurt me. But it ended up hurting Derek instead. The police charged her with multiple crimes, including endangering life, causing bodily harm, and food tampering. Brittany even tried to twist the story, saying it was my fault because I gave my plate to Derek. Thankfully, Derek stayed firm. He made it clear he wasn't going to let her manipulate the truth anymore. Her court date is coming up. I don't think she's going to wriggle out of this one. For those of you wondering, my son and I are doing fine. Liam has no idea what his aunt tried to do, and we'd like to keep it that way for now. But Mark and I agreed that when the time is right, we'll sit him down and tell him the truth. It'll be a tough talk, but he deserves to know. Meanwhile, I've been going to the doctor for regular ultrasounds every week. We're keeping the baby's gender a surprise this time. With everything that's happened, my parents have been super protective. They've been pushing me to see a therapist, just to make sure I stay emotionally balanced through the rest of the pregnancy. And honestly, they're right. I may act calm on the outside, but ever since the poisoning, I've been paranoid about eating food I didn't prepare myself. I avoid outside meals entirely. Mark's been great, supportive and patient, helping me work through the fear. Update 4. It's been about 8 months since everything happened. And yes, Brittany's in prison now. I never went to any of her hearings, but my in-laws gave me updates. Apparently, she admitted everything in court. She told them she'd been jealous of me for years. She always hoped one of her best friends would marry Mark, so when he ended up with me, she saw me as an outsider stealing her brother. When we announced our pregnancy at Mark's birthday party, she completely snapped. Turns out, she had been planning to share her own pregnancy news that day too. After her previous miscarriage, she wanted that moment to be all hers. She thought we stole the spotlight. And so, fueled by jealousy and pregnancy hormones, she added a little rat poison to my food. She claimed she didn't want to hurt me or the baby, just make me sick enough to land in the hospital. She begged the judge for leniency, saying she never imagined I'd give the plate to Derek. In her mind, I'd poisoned her husband, not her. The judge didn't buy it. She was found guilty on all counts and sentenced. She won't be part of our lives again for a long, long time. Derek's free now too. He's officially divorced her. We've kept in touch and he's still part of our family gatherings. When I apologized to him, over and over, for handing him that plate, he looked me in the eye and said it wasn't my fault. That broke me. I cried. I'd gone over that moment 1,000 times in my head, wishing I'd done anything else. Knowing Derek's doing better now brings me peace. As for me and Mark, we've got a baby girl now. Despite everything we've been through, our daughter has brought light into our lives. Liam loves being a big brother. He's so sweet with her, always helping out, always watching over her. Watching the two of them together reminds us what really matters. Our family, both sides, have been incredible through it all. They've stuck by us every step of the way.